In this tutorial, we're going to enrich our Spring Boot application with a ChatGPT model, and we're going to ask some questions in ChatGPT and get some responses in our application. This can help you to enrich your application functionality greatly using state-of-the-art natural language processing capabilities in your project. As usual, we start from the scratch. We generate just empty Spring Boot project with some dependencies we need. Today, we need only web dependency. I also add Lombok dependency just for convenience. I will use Gradle, but it doesn't matter. You can use Maven if you want. We will use Java 17. Of course, you can use any version of Java starting from 11. And let me just specify some group, artifact, and name as we usually do for our project. Okay, I generate my project and open it with IntelliJ IDEA. Okay, here we have our project. First of all, let's check what is LangChain4J library. It's a really interesting and powerful library which will help you to connect your project with natural language processing LLMs like OpenAI LLM, ChatGPT, and for example, some open source LLMs like Llama or for example, Hugging Face. In this tutorial, we're gonna integrate with OpenAI because it's the most capable language model nowadays. OpenAI has good API which you can use to integrate into your code. Let's open OpenAI. Most of you probably used ChatGPT, but we're gonna use API. Just for you to know, it's not free. It costs some money, but in this tutorial, we're gonna use free capabilities of LangChain4J. This team specifies some demo token which you can use in testing purposes. And of course, if you use, for example, some models like OpenAPI 3.5 Turbo, it's not gonna cost you much. So you can also try using your API key. As you can see, I'm on the OpenAPI website, and I can, for example, navigate to API keys, and I can generate new API keys, and then I will use this API key when I will integrate OpenAPI in my code. But as I told you in this tutorial, we don't need API key from OpenAI, and this tutorial will be fully free. I'm not sure how long LangChain will support this demo token, but for now it's totally free. And LangChain4J, it allows you to integrate with OpenAI, for example, without calling additional API, without managing your own clients, etc. And they have a really interesting tutorial with a lot of examples on Java and Spring Boot, so you can take a look. Okay, first of all, we need dependency for our application. Let's navigate to the Google and enter LangChain4J, and we add Maven, and we will download the latest version of our LangChain. As I told you, I use Gradle, so I copy Gradle and I navigate to my build Gradle. But instead of test implementation, I add implementation. And I also need another library for OpenAI. So I just add LangChain OpenAI. And also download the latest version. And that's all dependencies we need. First of all, let's create some packages. Let's create a controller package. As you can guess, there will be stored our controller for managing our request. And let's create it. it will be just REST controller with all args constructor and request mapping, for example, as API chat. And we will have one method. And let's create, DTO classes. And let's create some DTO classes, for example, for chat response. And we will have only one field. And of course, we will create some chat request. For now, it will also have only one field. And we specify it in request body. And for this, we need some service. Let's create. And let's create our service. And let's call it, for example, GenAI service, since we are using generative AI to generate our completions for the questions. And our GenAI service will have only one method, get response, and it will use chat request. So our GenAI service will receive request and will provide response. And let's just wire. And we are done with the controller part. And let's create implementation of our service. And let's create GenAI service IMPL implements GenAI service. Okay, and let's make it as simple Spring Boot servers and make it as required as args constructor, just to be able to inject dependencies through the constructor. That's why I downloaded Lombok, because I really like how we can construct constructors and other boilerplate code in Java using just a couple of annotations. Okay, and it's time for LangChain for Java. And actually, it's really simple to start using this library. First of all, we need to create chat object and then generate some response. Let's do this. Okay, LangChain has OpenAI chat model class, which has builder. And of course, we can specify parameters for our OpenAI. We can specify, first of all, API key. As I told you in this tutorial, we can use demo key because LangChain4J provides us this demo key, and they just provide this demo key so you can test their library for free. So I will use this demo key. Of course, you can provide your own key you generated from OpenAI. And as I told you, if, for example, you use a model like GPT 3.5 Turbo, it won't cost you a lot of money to generate responses and to analyze some text. And we can specify, of course, model name. We can specify using string, or we can specify using OpenAI chat model name enum. Let's use enum because I don't want to hard code. As you can see, here we have some provided enum from LangChain4J, and we can specify the required model we want to use. And actually, that's all parameters I want to specify. But as you can see, we can specify a lot more parameters. For example, max tokens, max retries, and for example temperature. If you don't know what it is, just leave it as empty for now. If you are already familiar with LLM functionality and with OpenAI ChatGPT, so you can customize your model on your own, for example specifying some temperature, or for example specifying max tokens just to save you some money if you are going on production, something like that. But for our purpose, we're gonna use only these two parameters, model name and API key. And I can tell you that even these parameters are not needed, because by default this OpenAPI chat model class uses ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo and API key demo. Okay, and how we can get response from the OpenAI? We can call model generate. Here is our model, and we can use model generate, and we can specify, as you can see, a lot of this model generate can accept a lot of parameters. Chat message, we will get it later. It can also get only string. Let's just try to generate simple query and receive simple response. We will use request question, and we will receive response. And we can use this to return response. We can even inline our code, something like that. And that's actually it. Let's try to run our application and test it. Let me check. Yeah, let me. Yeah, now our code compiles, and let's run. Okay, our application started. Let's get back to the Postman and check how it works. Here is our post endpoint, and here is our body. And as you remember, we need to specify only question. And let's just ask something simple. Let's click send, and we wait for ChatGPT to provide us a response. And as you can see, here is our response. It took 7 seconds to complete, but it's more or less a good response from ChatGPT. And that's the simplest usage of our model. But let me customize it a little bit. Let me show you another approach, how we can call this ChatGPT. As you can see, as you remember, this generate accepts chat message, and chat message is just object which receives a chat message type and text. Chat message type can be system, user, AI, and tool execution result. We can specify system message to provide, because usually when you call generate with simple text, this message type will be just user type, because that's how ChatGPT will interpret that this is question from user. But you can specify, for example, system type, which will tell ChatGPT some predefined behavior, how to behave. For example, let's try. Let's create chat message as array list. And let's create system message. As you can see, LangChain4J provides you convenient methods to create system message. You can use system message or from. And let's say that we want our responses in, for example, in French. something like that. And then after that, we add user message and request question. And then instead of providing text, we provide list of messages to ChatGPT. And in this case, model will return us a response with AI message. And this AI message contains not only text, response text, but also some additional parameters like how many tokens it took to complete this and so on. But we can get our content as text from the content object. Let's restart our application and check how it works. As you remember, we asked ChatGPT to respond in French. Let's click send. And as you can see, we received, I guess it's a French response. That's how you can set up some predefined behavior for your questions and answers from ChatGPT. But LangChain for Java is more than that. Let me show you a case where, for example, this approach won't be very good. Let me remove respond from French because we want to be able to read responses. Let me ask this. What is my name? And we receive, I'm sorry, but I don't know your name. Of course, because ChatGPT doesn't know my name. And even though I tell my name previously, ChatGPT says that nice to meet you, Java Master, but after that, if I ask my name again, it tells me that it doesn't know my name because it's stateless. It doesn't remember previous conversation because you just call API and it doesn't know that what was previous conversation with you. And LangChain for Java provides you simple, very convenient setup. For example, for history, where you can provide different, let's say, different chat history to the bot, to the LLM, and it will know some context from the previous conversation. And for that, we need a little bit more than just these configurations. Let me add more sophisticated configuration for our model. Let me create new package and call it config. We will set up all models and completions as Spring Bean, just to make it convenient for usage. Since we are already in Spring environment, we can use all the benefits from the Spring. And let me specify, for example, new class and call it AI config. It will be configuration class. And first of all, we specify our chat model as a bean. Let me copy paste it. Just like that. And then I want to show you some assistant. Let me create another service. Just simple interface, and I will call it assistant. Of course, name can be anything you want. For now, let's leave it as empty. And in AI config, we can create, let's say, a wrapper for our AI assistant to make it work as a real AI assistant. let's use bin and instantiate our AI assistant. And let me call AI services. It's another class from LangChain for Java. It has builder, and we need to specify a class which we want to build. In our case, it's our assistant. Here it is. And we can specify in this assistant our chat language model, which is our model we specified in the chat language model bin. And we can specify even chat memory provider. And we want to provide memory for every user, because I want every user of our chat completion bot will have its own memory, because it's of course it's certain that every user should have its own memory, because it's there is no sense to provide the shared memory for all users, of course. And we can use two types of memory from LangChain. For Java, it's message window chat memory and token memory. Of course, it's, let me show you this. As you can see, here is our interface, and it has implementation as token window chat memory and message window chat memory. If you know how to deal with tokens, and you know you want to specify, you have some restrictions on pricing, you can use this token window chat memory. And in this token window chat memory, you just specify maximum tokens you want to store for each user ID, and this class will delete these messages which are not fit into your token maximum tokens. And you can use, for example, message window chat memory. As you can guess, it stores some amount of messages which you specify, and after you reach this amount of message, it will delete the latest one, the oldest one. And I can specify message window chat memory with max messages. Let's say I want to store only 10 messages, because remember, we store everything in memory, in Java memory. So if you have a lot of users, you can exceed this memory with those 10 messages. And also remember that we provide all messages to the ChatGPT API, and ChatGPT charges us for every token, for every symbol in the message. So the more symbols you provide, of the more money you're gonna pay. And that's why you need to set up these max messages carefully. And of course, ChatGPT OpenAI has some context window which can't be exceeded. And you can't also specify an unlimited amount of messages in one window. So I specify just 10 for our testing purposes. It will be enough. Let me return this. And I can use this assistant to generate messages. Let's get back to our GenAI service, and I will show you how we can use this. You know what? Just to save this code for you, let me create something like that. V1 or deprecated or just simple, and we will use this as example for you, because I will provide code for you, a link to the code, and you can use this example on your own. And here's our get response. Let me delete everything. And we need some user ID because we need to specify memory for each user. Let me specify also some user ID. Of course, on your real project, you will have some user ID because you won't allow users to use your, probably you won't allow unrecognized users to use your API. But if you don't have such users, you can always get some session from request, and you can, for example, take a map, and then this will be your identifier of the session. But I will make much simpler. I will just provide user ID, create user ID, and let me auto-wire our assistant. And I can use our assistant, and let's provide some functionality for our assistant. And let me create method chat, and I specify memory ID. And I specify user message. As you can see, I use annotations from LangChain just to specify user message, and I will also use this system message annotation to specify system message. Let me just finish with user message. And as you remember in previous example, we used this list with chat message where I specified user message and system message. And this time we can just use annotations, user message, for example, and we can use annotations for system message. And let me create some meaningful system message. And let's say okay, I specified just some system message for our ChatGPT that it's a helpful assistant, and if it doesn't know some answer, just tell it that it doesn't know. It's called prompt engineering. You can take a look at it on internet. There are a lot of materials on prompt engineering. Of course, it's some sort of basic steps of prompt engineering. It's quite extensive topic regarding your communication with language models. But for our purpose, just to get familiar with LangChain for Java and integrations with OpenAI, so this will be enough. I specify system message and I specify user message. So in my assistant, I can just use assistant chat, and I get request user ID, request question, and everything will be completed for me because I don't need implementation. Let me close everything. I don't need to implement this interface. It's like Spring Boot GPA, where you specify interface and you just specify methods you want to execute, and Spring wraps everything and executes queries, SQL queries for you. It's something like that. You just specify method, you specify some prompts, you specify some system message if needed, and you specify response, and then it will just execute everything for you using configurations you provided previously, right? A language model, memory provider if needed. Of course, you if you don't need memory, you can just disable it. And there are some more configurations like tools, like content retriever and streaming and so on, but we won't take a look on it today because it's quite extensive topic just for one lesson. Okay, let's try to check how it works. Let's restart our application and let's add user ID. Okay, let's send what is my name, and we receive, I'm sorry, but I don't have access to your personal information. Take a look how it responds compared to the previous example. As you can see, it adds more messages, like warm message, if there is something else I can assist you, please feel free to ask, etc, etc. And let's just provide our name. Okay, and after that, as you can see, now our model remembers our name. It's a trick because actually ChatGPT itself doesn't remember it. But we just provide the previous responses from ChatGPT and our previous questions in this current question. And that's how ChatGPT knows my name. It's small trick which can make your assistant smartest, and which can help user to communicate with your bot in more efficient way. And that's not all I wanted to show you. Let me show you some other example. How can you use LangChain for Java library? You can not only receive strings from the ChatBot, you can also receive your custom objects, I mean Java objects, and you can also receive Boolean or local date. ChatGPT is smart enough to provide you with. Let me create some package. I call it model. Let's say I have some book model in my class. With data, I generate getters, setters, constructors, and toString. I create some fields. Let's say our book has ID, some title, right? Let's say it has description. I don't know, genre. And just to make it more interesting, let's add local date, date of publication. And for example, author. And let's say I want my assistant to get the book object by specified text. How can I do this? I provide my response type. I call the method. I create this method. Let's call it extract book from text. And of course, I provide text. And let's add system message. We can even specify placeholders using LangChain, but for this you need to use annotation, v annotation, and specify value of this placeholder. It's really similar to Spring. Sprint Data GPI, where you can also specify parameters in your query and then add this parameter to the SQL. And let's try. You know what? Let me create I will use this same chat request object just because I don't want to specify additional object. And let's return GenAI service get book model from text. And of course we question. Of course we will create this method. And let's use our assistant, something like that. Let's try to use how can, for example, ChatGPT return me my book model even though it's Java. Let's restart our application and let's yeah, I forgot to change parameters, something like that. And here's our endpoint. Let's duplicate this one and let's provide some text. Okay, let's provide some text. Let's navigate to the Google and print like Pride and Prejudice. And let's navigate to Goodreads, for example, and take this description. Let's check if ChatGPT could get the book detailed information from this text. Here's our question. I can see here we have brackets, right? And let's click send. And here's our book model. As you can see, everything is fine. Title is Pride and Prejudice, some description, some genre, date of publishing. Let's check if it took date of publishing correct. 1813, no, 0128. First published January 28, 1813. Of course, it probably didn't know this information from this text, but as I told you previously, ChatGPT is really powerful, even though we use 3.5 and now 4 is already available. But still, it could get some information from this small description. Of course, you can be sure in this information because it's just language model. It can be 100% right. But as you can see, my point just to show you how can we return not only strings, but some complex Java types. And let's add some restrictions because, for example, I don't like that this description is such big. Okay, let's navigate to the model and specify some restrictions. And we have annotations from LangChain. we have description annotation, where we can specify some text, how we can receive this. Let me show you that we can do something like that. Should be less than, for example, 20 words. And let's say I don't really like this genre, comedy of manners. It seems for me as some genre which is not existing or something like that, or maybe some rare genre. Let me ask ChatGPT to generate me some genres. Let's try to ask ChatGPT to generate us some more popular genres of the book. Yeah, it can't specify me in the Java list. It's strange because previously it could. Let's provide something like this. You know, prompt engineering is an iterative process, and you can always try to prepare better questions for ChatGPT. Let me try this approach. Okay, here we have our list. As you can see, you just need to try different approaches. And let me get back to my service. And let me replace. Here's my genres. And let's say that we want to generate results using only these genres, right? We can do this by specifying another prompt. In the system message, we can specify after that user message and say, and genre should be from this list. Genres list. And we specify another parameters, genres list, and this is a list of strings. And we pass this list, something like that. And let's try once again. So as a reminder, we specified some genres which we want to see, and we specified some restrictions for the amount of words for description. Let's try once again. As you can see, we received internal server error because, as I told you, large language models are something that generates text, and you can't trust it fully. As you can see, expected begin object but was string. We can try a couple of times. For example, we can even specify something like that to be more to make sure that it will specify more robust response. Let me something like that in JSON format. Right now, after this example, I will show you how we can specify output for ChatGPT. As you can see, after specifying JSON format, it could return us our object. As you can see, we have description, which is totally less than 20 words. And right now we have a genre romance, which I guess from our list. All right. And sometimes you can receive this internal server error because, as I told you, it's just language models. But ChatGPT, especially for ChatGPT, you can specify output format in the model. Let me show you. In the model configurations, you have response format. And ChatGPT, you can specify some response format which you want to see, and it tries to strictly follow your response format. And I want to say that it will be JSON object. And it will always try to respond you in JSON object format. And in that case, you probably won't fail when you map from your response to the book model. But this demo key doesn't support JSON object response as told on this side of LangChain4J. So you need to try this JSON object with your own key. I mean, if you specify demo and JSON object, it will work, but you can't be sure that it will be JSON object 100%. So for this purpose, for testing purpose, I specify my key which I generated on OpenAI. Okay, let's restart our project. I specified my key, and I can even disable, for example, this JSON format from assistant. I will receive JSON format always because I specified response format. Let's click send. And as you can see, everything works fine. But you should remember that this is just generative AI. Okay, and of course, this time it shows you date of publication correct, and it shows you title correct, and even author correct, and some description. I want to show you that it's not usually true what this model responds, and you should be ready for that. And you shouldn't rely on those responses very much, especially if you have some serious application which can't rely on such responses. As you can see, February 18, and this is different date, and author is unknown, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's all what I wanted to show you today. Actually, as you can see, it's really easy to integrate your application using LangChain4J. Usually for this LLM stuff and AI, people use Python or JavaScript libraries. But for example, if you already have some enormous ecosystem on Java, on your project, on work, or if you want to try these models and you don't want to understand all this stuff with Python, you can use these libraries. They have great support for now. They evolve much, and if you see the documentation is up to date and it's always evolving. And then for these purposes, you can use your favorite Java language, for example, and don't try to and avoid studying and avoid learning Python, for example. And yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I see you in the next video. Goodbye.